one of the good impacts that the book had for the audience in China is that it reminded people of China's own Chinese people have been divorced and separated from a great deal of their own cultural heritage over the past 30, 40, 50 years. And so, like when I first had this interest in going into the mountains to look for hermits in China, everybody told, well, we don't have hermits anymore. Well, that's a thing of the past. So that one of the benefits of the book, it reminded the Chinese people of their own past and how that their past is also part of their present. And it's an unbroken tradition that certain people in society are drawn to spend time alone. And these people who do this are not like our Western hermits who want to be left alone and don't like people. But the Chinese people who go into the mountains for solitude are people who care about other people, and they feel the need to do this for a period of their life so that they can be better people and help more people. This has always been true of the ancient shamans. Mm-hmm. And when Taoism first developed from shamanism, this was part of their heritage. Mm-hmm. When Confucianism began, if you look at every single, without any exception, every single Confucian academy of the Tang Dynasty and the Song Dynasty was built at the foot of mountains, and the people who attended these academies all built huts in the mountains.
Yes.
So the hermit tradition and the tradition of spending time alone has been part of Taoism and part of Confucianism. And when the Buddhists arrived in China, it was already part of their tradition in India. And so this tradition is very unique in China, that you see so many people going into the mountains to spend time alone. And in America, when we have hermits, it's people who go into the mountains and they disappear into the mountains.
Yeah.
But the Chinese hermit is very different. I tell people it's like going to graduate school. You don't go to graduate school for 20 years or 30 years, maybe 3 to 5 years. And I've interviewed quite a few hermits, and I would say it's about the same in China. Most people who seek solitude and go into the mountains in China do so for a limited period of years. Of course, how many years is up to the person. You have to decide yourself as when have I had enough? When have I achieved what I came to the mountains to achieve? So the Chinese hermit doesn't turn their back on society, just the opposite. They go into the mountains so that they can help society. And so this is one of the great benefits, I think, of this book of mine. It reminded Chinese people of this great tradition they have of certain members of society spending time alone so that they can help other people. Now, one of the downsides, you wanted to know about the downside, of course, that's a wonderful thing. I think I'll go to the mountains and build a hut so I can, enjoy life in the mountains. And they look at this as like a dilettante, as somebody who thinks that it's just fun to go into the mountains and read some poetry, write some poetry, and drink some wine. But life is hard in the mountains.
Yes.
And so a lot of people go into the mountains after reading my book, and maybe they build a hut or spend some time there, and they're probably very often disappointed because it's so lonely. It's not an easy life for people who don't have some foundation, and that's why I say it's like graduate school. You can't go to graduate school unless you've already been to college. You have to be a 毕业生. You have to be a graduate of a university before you can go to graduate school. And so these people, like in Konghu Yolan, who go into the mountains, they've been practicing Buddhism or Taoism or Confucianism with teachers for many years before they decide they want to go a little bit further and spend time alone.
Yes.
So that's one of the downsides, is many people are fooled by the image of the hermit into thinking that, oh, that's a wonderful thing, and I think I'll try my hand at that. and
Yes.
and so they become disillusioned. And
When I talk about the hermits with the Chinese, we will think about the 竹林七贤, Han Shan, Tao Yuanming. So it's very spiritual and it's a good word. But when I talk to my American friends about hermits, they would think of them as loners or think of them as weirdos, like the Unabomber who graduated from Harvard University in a cabin to build bombs. It seems to me that you mentioned the hermits you saw in China. They were poor, but they were smiling. They were the happiest people. So how do you compare hermits here in America and hermits in China? Some people seem to run away here. They want to leave the society, but in China, they leave the red dust to seek some or to cultivate themselves. So I see that's the big difference. But I wanted you to elaborate a little bit more.
well, it's like you just said, is your question was basically my answer. It's true that the Chinese hermit goes into the mountains to seek something. It's a very difficult life, and even though you go into the mountains to seek something, you may or may not be able to stand the life there. Many hermits in China do not survive the first winter. It's too cold, too lonely, too hard to find something to eat, and they go back down the mountains. Of course, but in America, we have very different hermits. Our hermits are misanthropes. Misanthrope means to hate others. And our people who are hermits are people who don't like other people and they want to be alone. And of course, those people aren't going to the mountains to seek a spiritual goal. They're just seeking to be alone. That's all. And of course, their life also is not an easy one, but they're driven by their hatred of other people, their hatred of social conventions, and not by the quest for something that will improve their society and help the lives of other people. So it's the biggest difference between our two of the hermit tradition in our two cultures.
So I want to throw my 2 cents. I think it's because people here, maybe they're disappointed by the society, so they decide to leave. And in China, we also have people who may be disappointed, such as Tao Yuanming, or they were disappointed by the government, and then they decide to live a life of hermit. Some other people, maybe they just thought they have to find the truth through solitude.
Of course. Yeah. Well, you said you gave Tao Yuanming as an example. I don't think that I've ever met a hermit who didn't think of Tao Yuanming as their hero. He was, you might say, the ideal hermit, because people often think of Tao Yuanming as living in the mountains, but he never lived in the mountains ever. He lived at the foot of Lushan.
Yes.
And naturally, he would hike into the mountains occasionally, but he lived, and his famous poems about building a hut on the edge of the road. So he could hear the carts and the horses going by every day, but his mind, 心愿地自偏.
心愿地自偏, yeah.
Yeah. If you're where your mind is what's important, and not where your house is. So there are still people who admire people like Tao Yuanming, and they also seek some kind of a path forward that allows them to be live a simpler life, but not be divorced from society. Following, you might say, the ideal of Tao Yuanming, who combined both spiritual quest and social contacts. So that's one ideal, and people can do that today. I've met a number of people in China. They're generally younger people, but not always young, but usually they're educated people who've developed certain sensibilities, and they're disappointed in the opportunities they see in society today. It's not necessarily a dissatisfaction, say, with the government so much as it is a dissatisfaction with the entire way of life that's going on in China today, just like a lot of the people in America who became hippies or beatniks are people who rejected the materialism and the quest for money of the 1960s and 70s. and so also sought some other alternative. So there are plenty of people in China who are experiencing the same conflict of how do I live a satisfying life if I don't want to spend my life chasing money? What's the alternatives? And so then they look at people like Tao Yuanming, or the Julian Qixan, perhaps,
Yes.
as examples for more educated people, because the Julian Qixan were very educated people who wrote poetry and lived in the countryside. So I meet people like that in China even more and more people all the time are like that in China that I meet in the countryside. Before, I never met people in the countryside in China. The only people in China in the countryside before were farmers. And now I'm seeing more and more young people or educated people in their 30s and 40s who are buying property in the countryside.
Yes.
They're not becoming hermits. They're becoming more like Tao Yuanming.
Yes. Back to the land movement in China.
Yes. There's lots of people like that. And of course, I think this can't help but be a positive influence.
Yes.
To have different kinds of people in society. So you don't want to have just everybody working in a factory. That's sort of boring. I mean, when you need money for your life and for your family, you have to get a job. And a factory is often the best place to do that. But there are certain people in life who can say, well, I want something simpler. And so there's plenty of room in the countryside for that now. And so I think my book, Konggu Youlan, gave people an idea that they could make a different life for themselves. They don't have to go into the mountains. They could live, like you say, like Tao Yuanming.